Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
I walked into Bella Vista restaurant expecting hugs, and maybe some guilt about forgetting to invite me to Mother's Day lunch. Instead, my mom Jessica looked me up and down like I was some stranger who wandered in from the street. Her voice cut through the cheerful chatter at their corner table when she said, "Don't pick up a plate. You weren't counted. Your sister covered $3,000. My sister Amanda smiled that cold smile I'd grown to hate and added, "Stand there. This table isn't for you." I didn't argue, didn't make a scene, but I watched Amanda charge the whole meal to my saved card on Mom's phone. I quietly voided the transaction, left a folded note on Mom's empty chair, and walked out. She read it, froze completely. Then everything started shutting down around that table. Minutes later, 47 missed calls hit my phone. The drive home from Bella Vista felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I replayed what had just happened. 3 months ago, I thought I had a normal family. Sure, Amanda had always been Mom's golden child, but I never imagined she'd orchestrate something this cruel. The systematic exclusion, the public humiliation, the calculated way she'd turned our entire extended family against me. It all started when Dad died 18 months ago. Heart attack at 62, completely unexpected. Mom was devastated, lost, vulnerable. Amanda swooped in like some kind of savior, moving back from her apartment in the city to help Mom through this difficult time. At first, I was grateful. My engineering job kept me busy, and I thought it was good that Mom had company. Then strange things began happening. Family gatherings I'd attended for years suddenly happened without me knowing. Cousin Sarah's birthday party, Uncle Frank's retirement celebration, even Dad's memorial service planning meetings. When I'd ask Mom about it later, she'd get this confused look and say Amanda had told her I was too busy with work or dealing with my own grief. Amanda had convinced Mom to refinance the family home 6 months ago. When I questioned it, both of them got defensive. Amanda claimed she needed startup capital for her boutique business downtown. She showed us the glossy brochures, the business plan that looked professional enough to fool anyone. Mom was so proud, talking about how Amanda was finally settling down and building something meaningful. I should have pushed harder when the red flags started appearing. Amanda's boutique supposedly opened, but whenever I drove by the address she'd given us, the storefront was always dark. When I mentioned this, Amanda had explanations ready. Appointment-only clientele. Exclusive private showings. She was always one step ahead with her answers. The financial manipulation had been subtle at first. Small withdrawals from Mom's accounts for business expenses, then larger amounts for inventory purchases and marketing campaigns. Mom defended every transaction because Amanda had positioned herself as the responsible daughter helping secure their financial future. My attempts to warn Mom only made things worse. Amanda painted me as jealous, unstable, possibly even dangerous. She told elaborate stories about my supposed drinking problem, my anger issues, my resentment over Dad's will. None of it was true, but Amanda was convincing. She had tears on command documentation that looked legitimate, and the kind of manipulative charisma that made people want to believe her. The Mother's Day lunch was supposed to be my last attempt at reconciliation. I'd driven to Bella Vista hoping to sit down with Mom and Amanda, maybe clear the air, and figure out how to move forward as a family. Instead, I walked into an ambush designed to humiliate me in front of our entire extended family. Aunt Patricia had been there, Uncle Frank, cousins Sarah and David, even Mom's church friend Eleanor. They all watched as Amanda publicly rejected me, as Mom treated me like some unwelcome intruder. The looks on their faces told me this wasn't the first time they'd heard negative things about me. Amanda had been poisoning the well for months. But I'd come prepared for something like this. The note I left contained a USB drive with 3 months' worth of investigation, bank statements showing Amanda's fake business expenses, security footage from the supposed boutique location proving it never operated, text messages between Amanda and her boyfriend Jake about their plans to buy a luxury car with mom's money. I'd hired a private investigator named Marcus Thompson after the third time Amanda claimed I'd stolen money from mom's purse during family visits. Marcus was expensive, but he was thorough. He traced every dollar Amanda had taken, documented every lie she'd told, built a case that even the most trusting person couldn't ignore. The climactic moment came when I realized Amanda was charging the $3,000 Mother's Day lunch to my credit card information saved in mom's phone. She'd been using my cards for weeks, small charges that I'd dismissed as fraud. But this was different. This was theft happening right in front of me, designed to humiliate me while literally making me pay for my own exclusion. Voiding that transaction probably saved me $3,000. But more importantly, it would leave Amanda scrambling for backup payment in front of the entire family. Her own cards would decline because her accounts were empty. The boutique business that supposedly generated all this wealth was completely fictional. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. By the time I pulled out of the restaurant parking lot, Amanda was calling every 30 seconds. Then Mom started calling, then Aunt Patricia, Uncle Frank, the cousins. Everyone who'd watched that scene unfold was now demanding explanations. I didn't answer. Let them read the evidence first. Let them see the documentation, the bank statements, the security footage. Let them understand exactly how Amanda had played them all for fools, while systematically destroying my relationship with our family. The 47 missed calls kept coming as I drove home. Each ring felt like validation that the truth was finally coming out. I sat in my apartment that evening staring at my phone as it continued buzzing with desperate calls from family members. 3 hours had passed since I'd walked out of Bella Vista, and the chaos was clearly escalating. But I wasn't ready to talk yet. First, I needed to review everything one more time, make sure my evidence was bulletproof. Marcus Thompson had done exceptional work over the past 3 months. The private investigator specialized in financial fraud cases, and he'd built a comprehensive picture of Amanda's deception that went far beyond what I'd initially suspected. Spread across my dining room table were bank statements, business registration documents, security footage, screenshots, and detailed timelines that painted a devastating portrait of systematic elder financial abuse. Amanda's boutique business was completely fabricated. The business license she'd shown Mom was real, but the actual operation was non-existent. Marcus had traced the supposed business address to an empty storefront that had been vacant for over 2 years. The landlord confirmed that no one named Amanda Reynolds had ever inquired about renting the space, let alone signed a lease. The financial theft was staggering. Over the past 18 months since Dad's death, Amanda had siphoned $87,000 from Mom's various accounts. She'd used her access as Mom's supposed caregiver to set up automatic transfers, forge signatures on withdrawal slips, and even take out a secret credit card in Mom's name. The fake invoices were masterfully created. Amanda had designed letterhead for fictional suppliers, created purchase orders for non-existent inventory, and generated professional-looking contracts that justified every dollar she'd stolen. She'd even paid a graphic designer to create a fake website for her boutique, complete with product photos stolen from high-end fashion retailers. Marcus had uncovered text message exchanges between Amanda and her boyfriend Jake that revealed the true scope of their scheme. They weren't just stealing money for living expenses, they were planning to disappear once Amanda could convince Mom to sell the family home. The house was worth over $400,000, and Amanda had already started the process of convincing Mom that maintaining such a large property was too much work for a widow. The most disturbing discovery was how Amanda had systematically isolated me from the family. Marcus had interviewed several family members under the pretense of gathering information for a family reunion planning committee. Their responses revealed that Amanda had told elaborate lies about my mental health, my supposed substance abuse problems, and my alleged threats to put Mom in a nursing home against her will. Aunt Patricia believed I was struggling with alcoholism and had become violently angry during family gatherings. Uncle Frank thought I was stealing money from Mom's purse and manipulating her finances. Cousin Sarah and David had been told I was making Mom uncomfortable with inappropriate comments about selling Dad's belongings. None of it was true, but Amanda's lies were detailed and consistent. She'd created a fictional version of me that explained why I should be excluded from family events, why my concerns about Mom's finances couldn't be trusted, and why everyone needed to protect Mom from my supposedly dangerous behavior. The security footage Marcus obtained was particularly damning. Over 6 weeks, he documented Amanda's daily routine, which involved no actual work at any boutique business. Instead, she spent her days at luxury spas, expensive shopping centers, and high-end restaurants. She was living off Mom's money while claiming to build a business empire. The timeline Marcus created showed how Amanda had accelerated her theft after Dad's funeral. She'd moved in with Mom ostensibly to provide companionship and support, but really to gain complete access to financial accounts and prevent me from discovering her activities. Every time I tried to visit Mom, Amanda had manufactured reasons why it wasn't a good time. My phone rang again, this time showing Marcus's number. I answered immediately. "Gordon, we've got a problem," Marcus said without preamble. "Amanda just tried to access your mother's main savings account, the one with the $40,000 balance." My blood went cold. "What do you mean tried?" "She's at the Central Bank branch on 5th Street right now arguing with the bank manager. They flagged the attempted withdrawal as suspicious because of the fraud alert you filed this morning. The manager is refusing to process the transaction without additional documentation." I could hear shouting in the background of Marcus's call. He was apparently sitting in the bank parking lot watching the situation unfold. "There's more," Marcus continued. "She brought fake power of attorney documents, completely forged. The bank's legal department is reviewing them now, but it's obvious they're fraudulent. The notary seal is from a company that went out of business 3 years ago." "Are the police involved?" "Security guard called them about 10 minutes ago. Amanda's getting increasingly aggressive with the bank staff. She's demanding to speak with the bank president, threatening to sue everyone, claiming there's been a mistake with her mother's accounts." Through Marcus's phone, I could hear Amanda's voice getting louder and more desperate. She was clearly realizing that her scheme was falling apart faster than she could manage. "The really interesting part," Marcus added, "is that she brought her boyfriend with her. Jake's sitting in their car in the parking lot, engine running. They packed suitcases in the back seat. Looks like they were planning to grab that $40,000 and disappear." My hands clenched into fists. Amanda wasn't just stealing money anymore. She was preparing to abandon Mom completely, leaving her financially devastated and emotionally destroyed. What happens next? Police should be here any minute. With the fake documents and the attempted withdrawal, they'll have grounds for arrest. Your evidence from the USB drive gives them probable cause to search her belongings and investigate the broader fraud. As if on cue, I heard sirens through Marcus's phone. The cavalry was finally arriving. The next few hours were a whirlwind of phone calls, police interviews, and family revelations that shattered everything I thought I knew about the past 18 months. Aunt Patricia called first, sobbing apologies through the phone as she realized how completely Amanda had manipulated her perceptions of me. Gordon, I'm so sorry," Patricia said, her voice breaking. "Amanda told us you'd been drinking heavily since your father's death. She said you'd shown up at family gatherings intoxicated and made inappropriate comments to the women. We thought we were protecting everyone by not inviting you." The lies were even more elaborate than I'd realized. Amanda had created specific incidents that never happened, complete with dates and witnesses who weren't actually present. She'd claimed I'd made advances toward Cousin Sarah at Uncle Frank's birthday party, that I'd stolen money from Mom's purse during Christmas dinner. that I'd threatened to have Mom declared incompetent so I could control her finances. Uncle Frank's call came 30 minutes later. His voice was heavy with shame and regret. She convinced us you were planning to put Jessica in some cut-rate nursing home and sell the family house, Frank explained. Amanda showed us what looked like brochures you'd supposedly collected, applications you'd supposedly filled out. We believed her because she seemed so concerned about protecting Jessica. Each family member had been fed a different version of my supposed wrongdoing, but the stories were consistent enough to create a comprehensive picture of someone who couldn't be trusted. Amanda had spent months poisoning every relationship I had, systematically building walls between me and the people I loved most. Cousins Sarah and David called together, both talking over each other as they tried to apologize and explain. They'd been told I was experiencing some kind of mental breakdown, that my grief over Dad's death had manifested as paranoid delusions about Amanda stealing money. They thought they were being compassionate by giving me space to work through my problems. The most heartbreaking call came from Mom herself. Her voice was small and confused, like she was waking up from a long dream. "Gordon, I don't understand what's happening," she said. "Amanda told me you were angry about your father's will, that you blamed me for his death somehow. She said you'd been calling her terrible names and threatening to cut off contact with the family unless I gave you money." I could hear the genuine confusion in Mom's voice. Amanda had created such an elaborate web of lies that Mom couldn't distinguish between reality and the fictional narrative she'd been fed. Every conversation we'd had over the past months had been filtered through Amanda's distortions. "She said you were seeing a therapist for anger management," Mom continued. "That the therapist had recommended limited contact with family until you worked through your issues. I thought I was helping you by giving you space." The cruelest part was how Amanda had used Dad's death as the foundation for her lies. She told Mom that I was struggling with complicated grief, that I was blaming family members for not doing enough to prevent Dad's heart attack. She'd positioned herself as the stable, supportive daughter while painting me as emotionally unstable and potentially dangerous. But the situation was escalating beyond family drama. Marcus called with updates from the bank, where Amanda's arrest had triggered a cascade of additional discoveries. When police searched her car, they found not just packed suitcases, but detailed plans for disappearing with stolen money. She had a folder with fake identification documents, Marcus reported. New Social Security cards, driver's licenses from different states, even employment records for fictional jobs. This wasn't just theft, Gordon. She was planning to assume new identities and start over somewhere else. The fake power of attorney documents were just the beginning. Police found forged signatures on loan applications, fraudulent tax returns claiming business expenses that never existed, and even fake medical records claiming Mom was suffering from early dementia and needed Amanda's financial management. "There's something else," Marcus said, his tone growing more serious. "Amanda's been coming by your apartment building for weeks. The security guard recognized her from photos and pulled surveillance footage. She's been taking pictures of your car, your windows, your daily routine." A chill ran down my spine. What was she planning? Based on what police found in her apartment, it looks like she was building a case to have you arrested for stalking your mother. She had fake evidence suggesting you'd been harassing Jessica, threatening her, maybe even breaking into the house. If the financial fraud hadn't been discovered, she probably would have used that evidence to get a restraining order against you. The scope of Amanda's manipulation was breathtaking. She hadn't just stolen money and turned family against me. She'd been systematically building a legal case that would have permanently destroyed my relationship with Mom, while positioning herself as the protective daughter, saving an elderly woman from her dangerous son. My building security guard called to confirm Marcus's information. Amanda had been observed multiple times in the parking garage, sometimes sitting in her car for hours watching my apartment windows. She'd asked maintenance staff questions about my lease, my visitors, my daily schedule. She'd even tried to convince the building manager that I was subletting illegally and should be evicted. She claimed to be your sister worried about your mental health, the security guard explained. Said your family was concerned about your living situation and wanted to help you find more appropriate housing. We thought she was being caring. Even my building management had been drawn into Amanda's web of lies. She'd been setting up scenarios to make me appear unstable, irresponsible, and in need of family intervention that only she could provide. The police investigation was moving quickly now. Detective Carmen Rodriguez called to schedule an interview explaining that Amanda's case had been referred to the Financial Crimes Unit due to the complexity and scope of the fraud. The fake documents, the systematic theft, and the evidence of planning to flee made this a serious felony case. We're going to need your full cooperation, Detective Rodriguez explained. Your private investigator's work is excellent, but we need your first-hand testimony about the family manipulation and financial abuse. This is going to be a federal case. As evening fell, I sat in my apartment surrounded by evidence of my sister's betrayal, trying to process the magnitude of what had been revealed. Amanda hadn't just stolen money. She'd stolen my family, my relationships, my reputation, and nearly my entire life. But for the first time in months, I wasn't alone anymore. The truth was finally coming out, and people were starting to understand what had really been happening. My phone rang one more time. It was building security. Mr. Reynolds, there's a situation down here you need to know about. Your sister is in the lobby, and she's making threats. I could hear Amanda screaming from the elevator as I rode down to the lobby. Her voice echoed through the marble walls, high-pitched and desperate, nothing like the controlled manipulation I'd witnessed for months. When the doors opened, I saw her cornering the security guard near the reception desk, her designer clothes wrinkled, and her carefully styled hair disheveled. "He's trying to destroy my life," she shrieked, pointing at me as I approached. "He forged those documents to frame me. He's been planning this for months because he's jealous of my success." The security guard, a patient man named Carlos, who'd worked in the building for over a decade, stepped between Amanda and me with practiced calm. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice and step back from the desk." Amanda's mask had completely slipped. Gone was the composed, caring daughter who'd manipulated our family for over a year. In her place stood someone desperate and cornered, lashing out with increasingly wild accusations. "My brother has been stealing from our mother," she continued, her voice breaking with fake emotion. "He's been forging her signature on checks, manipulating her medications to make her confused, isolating her from family who could help." Every accusation she hurled at me was actually something she'd done herself. It was like listening to a confession disguised as blame. Carlos had heard enough. "Ma'am, I'm calling the police. You need to leave the building immediately." "You don't understand." Amanda grabbed Carlos's arm, her nails digging into his uniform sleeve. "He's dangerous. He's been stalking our mother, threatening to hurt her if she doesn't give him money. The whole family is afraid of him." Carlos gently but firmly removed Amanda's hand from his arm. "Ma'am, step back now, or I will physically remove you from the premises." Amanda's eyes darted around the lobby, calculating, searching for some angle she hadn't tried yet. When she spotted me standing by the elevators, her expression shifted to something that looked almost like relief. "Gordon," she called out, suddenly switching to a pleading tone. "Thank God you're here. There's been a terrible mistake. Someone stole my identity and used it to access Mom's accounts. We need to work together to fix this before it destroys our family." The audacity was stunning. Even caught red-handed with fake documents and evidence of months of fraud, Amanda was still trying to manipulate the situation. She approached me with her arms outstretched, tears streaming down her face. "I know we've had our differences, but we're family. We can't let some identity thief tear us apart. I need your help to prove my innocence." I stood perfectly still, watching her performance with a mixture of disgust and amazement. "Amanda, stop. The police have it all wrong," she continued, ignoring my words. I was trying to protect Mom's money from the real thieves. That's why I moved those funds to secure accounts. That's why I had to take control of her finances. Someone was targeting elderly people in our neighborhood, and I was trying to prevent Mom from becoming a victim. Carlos was already on the phone with police dispatch reporting a disturbance and requesting immediate assistance. But Amanda kept talking, spinning new lies, as quickly as her mind could generate them. Those documents they're calling fake, I got them from a legitimate attorney who specializes in elder care protection. The notary seal looks outdated because the attorney's office uses vintage stamps to prevent fraud. Everything I did was legal and necessary. She grabbed my hands, squeezing them tightly as if physical contact could somehow make her lies more believable. Gordon, you know me. You know I would never hurt our family. Help me explain this to everyone before it's too late. The elevator dinged, and 3 police officers stepped into the lobby. Amanda immediately released my hands and stepped back, her expression shifting once again to wounded innocence. "Officers, thank goodness you're here," she said, her voice now calm and reasonable. "There's been a serious misunderstanding about some family financial matters. My brother and I were just discussing how to clear up the confusion." Officer Janet Morrison, a veteran patrol officer who'd clearly dealt with similar situations before, surveyed the scene with experienced eyes. "Are you Amanda Reynolds?" "Yes, but I can explain everything. The bank made errors in their records, and my family is being misled by incorrect information." Officer Morrison nodded to her partners who positioned themselves near the building exits. "Ms. Reynolds, you're under arrest for financial fraud, elder abuse, and attempted theft. You have the right to remain silent." Amanda's carefully constructed facade finally cracked completely. "This is insane. You can't arrest me for trying to protect my own mother. Gordon, tell them how our mom asked me to help manage her finances." As Officer Morrison began reading Amanda her rights, the full scope of the situation became clear. This wasn't just about stolen money or manipulated family relationships. Amanda had constructed an elaborate alternate reality where she was the victim and hero simultaneously, where every crime she committed was actually protection, and where everyone else was either confused or malicious. The other officers searched Amanda's purse and found additional evidence that Marcus hadn't uncovered. Fake business cards for the non-existent boutique, forged letters from fictional clients thanking her for excellent service, even fake photographs showing her in a professional-looking retail environment that had been digitally manipulated. She's got what looks like a whole fake life documented in here, Officer Morrison observed, flipping through Amanda's wallet. Multiple driver's licenses, business licenses for companies that don't exist, even fake employee identification cards. As they led Amanda toward the police car, she made one final desperate attempt to control the narrative. "Gordon," she called over her shoulder, "remember what Dad always said about family loyalty? Don't let them destroy everything we've built together." But Dad had never said anything about loyalty requiring blind trust or ignoring obvious wrongdoing. Dad had taught us about integrity, honesty, and protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Amanda had violated every value our father had tried to instill in us. Carlos shook his head as the police car pulled away. "In 20 years of security work, I've seen a lot of family drama, but that was something else entirely." My phone was buzzing again. Detective Rodriguez calling with updates from the expanded investigation. The federal authorities had gotten involved because Amanda's scheme crossed state lines and involved sophisticated identity theft. The case was bigger than anyone had initially realized. The climactic twist came in Detective Rodriguez's next words. "Gordon, we need to talk in person immediately. We found something in your sister's apartment that changes everything. This isn't just financial fraud anymore. We're looking at potential attempted murder charges." Detective Carmen Rodriguez's office at the downtown precinct felt surreal at 11:30 on a Sunday night. But the gravity of what she was about to reveal demanded immediate attention. Spread across her desk, were evidence bags containing items seized from Amanda's apartment that painted a picture so disturbing I initially refused to believe it. Your sister had been researching untraceable poisons for the past 6 months. Detective Rodriguez said, opening a thick folder filled with printed web pages. We found detailed searches for substances that mimic natural health problems in elderly people. Heart palpitation medications that become dangerous in high doses, sleep aids that cause confusion and memory problems when administered regularly. The blood drained from my face as I stared at the evidence. You're saying she was poisoning Mom? Based on what we found, it appears your sister was slowly increasing your mother's prescribed medications while adding additional substances designed to worsen her cognitive function and overall health. FBI agent Lisa Martinez joined us, introducing herself as the lead investigator for the Financial Crimes Unit. She'd been called in when the case expanded beyond local jurisdiction, but what she'd discovered went far beyond financial fraud. Amanda's computer contained detailed research on inheritance laws, life insurance policies, and the legal process for declaring someone mentally incompetent, Agent Martinez explained. She'd been building a comprehensive plan that would have made her your mother's sole heir and legal guardian. The evidence was overwhelming. Amanda had purchased small amounts of various medications from online pharmacies using fake prescriptions. She'd researched how different combinations of drugs could cause symptoms that looked like natural aging or developing dementia. She'd even consulted with illegitimate medical professionals about the effects of certain substances on elderly patients. The really disturbing part, Detective Rodriguez continued, is that we found a timeline in her apartment. Your mother was supposed to have a health crisis within the next 2 weeks, something that would require immediate hospitalization and potentially long-term care. Amanda's manipulation had been far more sinister than financial theft. She'd been systematically poisoning Mom to create medical conditions that would justify taking complete control of her life and finances. The house sale Amanda had been pushing wasn't just about accessing equity. It was about liquidating assets before Mom became too incapacitated to object. Agent Martinez opened another evidence bag containing a small notebook filled with Amanda's handwriting. She documented every medication she gave your mother, every symptom. She observed every change in cognitive function. This is essentially a poisoning journal. I read a few entries with growing horror. Amanda had noted Mom's increasing confusion, her memory problems, her physical weakness, and her growing dependence on Amanda for basic daily activities. But instead of concern, Amanda's notes showed satisfaction with her mother's deteriorating condition. Did Mom know? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Your mother had no idea, Detective Rodriguez confirmed. Amanda was grinding pills into her food, adding liquid medications to her coffee and tea, even putting substances in her shampoo that could be absorbed through the skin. The dosages were carefully calculated to cause symptoms without immediate life-threatening effects. The scope of Amanda's planning was breathtaking and terrifying. She hadn't just stolen money. She'd been slowly killing our mother while positioning herself as the dedicated daughter caring for an increasingly frail parent. Every family member who'd praised Amanda for her devotion had unknowingly been complimenting her for successfully poisoning an elderly woman. We've already contacted your mother's primary care physician, Agent Martinez said. Dr. Patricia Chen has agreed to admit Jessica to the hospital immediately for comprehensive toxicology screening and treatment. The good news is that most of the substances your sister used can be filtered out of the system with proper medical intervention. Relief washed over me, followed immediately by rage. Amanda had been planning Mom's murder for months, disguising it as natural health decline, while stealing her money and destroying her relationships with family members who might have noticed something was wrong. There's more, Detective Rodriguez said grimly. We found evidence that your sister had taken out multiple life insurance policies on your mother without her knowledge. The total death benefit would have been over $800,000. Amanda had been playing a long game that involved not just theft, but carefully planned murder. The boutique business, the family manipulation, the systematic isolation of me from Mom's daily life, it was all designed to create conditions where Amanda could poison Mom to death without anyone suspecting foul play. How long has this been going on? Based on the medical evidence and your sister's documentation, probably since shortly after your father's death, Agent Martinez replied. The poisoning started gradually and increased over time. Your mother's recent health problems weren't natural aging. They were the result of sustained chemical abuse. I thought about Mom's increasing frailty over the past year, her memory problems, her growing dependence on Amanda for simple tasks. I'd attributed it to grief and natural aging, but Amanda had been systematically destroying Mom's health while positioning herself as the only person capable of caring for her. The attempted bank withdrawal today was probably triggered by urgency, Detective Rodriguez explained. Your sister knew the poisoning timeline was accelerating, and she needed to access liquid funds before your mother became too incapacitated to provide authorization. Agent Martinez showed me additional evidence from Amanda's computer research on how to fake medical emergencies information about which hospitals had the least thorough emergency room procedures and detailed maps of rural areas where someone might dispose of evidence after a suspicious death. Your sister wasn't just planning to inherit your mother's money, Agent Martinez said. She was planning to disappear entirely after your mother died. New identity, new location, completely untraceable. The fake identification documents police had found in Amanda's car weren't just for temporary escape. They were for a permanent new life, funded by insurance money from Mom's murder. Amanda had been planning to kill our mother and then vanish, leaving behind a grief-stricken son who would never know his sister had committed the perfect crime. What happens now? Amanda's being charged with attempted murder, elder abuse, financial fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy, Detective Rodriguez listed. The federal charges alone carry a potential sentence of 25 years to life. With the state charges added, she's looking at life in prison without parole. Agent Martinez closed her files and looked at me directly. Gordon, your investigation probably saved your mother's life. If you hadn't documented the financial fraud and triggered this investigation, your sister would have succeeded in killing Jessica within the next 2 weeks. As I left the police station at nearly 1 a.m, the magnitude of what Amanda had planned was still sinking in. She hadn't just betrayed our family's trust or stolen our mother's money. She'd been slowly murdering the woman who'd raised her, cared for her, and loved her unconditionally. The 47 missed calls that had started this whole revelation represented family members desperately trying to understand how they'd been so completely deceived. But now there would be new calls, new conversations, and the long process of helping Mom recover from both financial fraud and systematic poisoning. Justice was finally in motion, but the real work of healing our family was just beginning. The next morning brought a flurry of activity that felt like watching justice unfold in real time. I arrived at Mercy General Hospital, where Mom had been admitted for emergency toxicology treatment, and for the first time in over a year, I saw her without Amanda's looming presence controlling every interaction. Dr. Patricia Chen met me in the hallway outside Mom's room with a mixture of professional concern and personal outrage that made her normally calm demeanor seem almost fierce. Gordon, your mother is going to be fine. But what your sister did to her is unconscionable, Dr. Chen said, flipping through a thick medical chart. We've identified at least 6 different substances in Jessica's system that have no business being there. Sedatives, blood pressure medications, even small amounts of insulin that could have caused dangerous drops in blood sugar. The medical evidence was damning. Amanda had been using Mom as a testing ground for different combinations of drugs, carefully documenting which substances produced which symptoms, while gradually increasing dosages to accelerate the poisoning timeline. The good news? Dr. Chen continued, is that we caught this before any permanent damage occurred. Your mother's confusion memory problems and physical weakness should improve significantly as we flush these substances from her system. Mom was awake when I entered her room, and for the first time in months, her eyes looked clear and focused. The fog that had seemed to cloud her thinking for the past year was already starting to lift. "Gordon," she said, reaching for my hand with strength I hadn't seen since Dad's funeral. "I'm starting to remember things that don't make sense. Things Amanda told me about you that feel like lies now." The hospital had provided a patient advocate named Michael Santos to help Mom process the emotional trauma of learning she'd been systematically poisoned by her own daughter. Michael explained that victims of family poisoning often experienced confusion about their memories and perceptions during recovery. "Your mind is going to start separating real experiences from experiences that occurred while you were being drugged," Michael told Mom gently. "It's normal to feel confused about what actually happened versus what you were told happened." As Mom's system cleared of Amanda's poisons, she began remembering conversations and incidents that contradicted the narrative Amanda had constructed. She remembered me visiting more often than Amanda had claimed. She remembered expressing concerns about the boutique business that Amanda had dismissed. She remembered feeling uncomfortable with some of Amanda's financial decisions, but being told she was just confused due to grief. Federal prosecutors arrived that afternoon with updates on the expanding investigation. Assistant U.S. Attorney David Kim explained that Amanda's case had triggered a broader inquiry into elder abuse schemes targeting recently widowed women in our area. "Your sister wasn't working alone," Attorney Kim revealed. "We've identified at least 3 other families where similar patterns occurred: fake businesses, systematic financial theft, and in 2 cases, suspicious deaths that are now being reopened as potential homicides." The scope of Amanda's criminal network was staggering. Her boyfriend Jake had been cooperating with federal investigators and revealed that Amanda had been part of an organized scheme targeting vulnerable, elderly people across multiple states. The boutique business wasn't just fake. It was a front for a sophisticated elder abuse operation. "Jake provided evidence that your sister had detailed files on over 20 potential victims," Attorney Kim continued. "Elderly people who'd recently lost spouses, inherited significant assets, or showed signs of social isolation. Your mother wasn't random. She was specifically targeted because of her circumstances." Agent Martinez arrived with even more disturbing revelations from Amanda's seized computer files. "Your sister had been researching your family for months before your father died. She knew about his heart condition, his life insurance policies, your mother's potential inheritance. We found evidence suggesting Amanda might have known about your father's impending health crisis before it happened. The implication was horrifying, but impossible to ignore. Had Amanda somehow contributed to Dad's death as well?" The investigation was expanding to include a review of Dad's medical records and the circumstances surrounding his sudden heart attack. "We're exhuming your father's body for additional toxicology testing," Agent Martinez said quietly. "Amanda had access to his medications, his food, his daily routine. Given what we now know about her methods, we can't rule out the possibility that his death wasn't entirely natural." Meanwhile, the civil proceedings were moving rapidly. Mom's attorney Jennifer Walsh had filed emergency motions to freeze all of Amanda's assets and recover the stolen funds. The fake boutique business was being dissolved. Amanda's apartment lease was being terminated, and every account she'd opened with Mom's money was being traced and reclaimed. "We should be able to recover almost all of the stolen money," Attorney Walsh explained. "Amanda hadn't had time to hide or spend most of it. The luxury purchases can be sold, the fake business assets can be liquidated, and the fraudulent loan on your mother's house can be reversed." The extended family had rallied around Mom and me with a level of support that felt overwhelming after months of isolation. Aunt Patricia had organized a schedule ensuring Mom would never be alone during her recovery. Uncle Frank had hired additional security for Mom's house and my apartment building. Cousins Sarah and David were taking turns staying overnight at the hospital. We all feel terrible about believing Amanda's lies. Aunt Patricia said, tears in her eyes as she sat beside Mom's hospital bed. She was so convincing, so detailed in her stories about Gordon's supposed problems. We should have questioned it more, should have talked to you directly, instead of just accepting her version of events. The family healing process was complicated by the realization that everyone had been manipulated differently. Amanda had told each person slightly different lies designed to prevent them from comparing notes or questioning her narrative. Uncle Frank had been told I was financially unstable and asking Mom for money. Cousin Sarah had been told I was making inappropriate advances toward women at family gatherings. Cousin David had been told I was threatening to contest Dad's will. She knew exactly which lies would be most believable to each person. Family counselor Dr. Rebecca Martinez explained during a group session at the hospital. Manipulative personalities often excel at identifying individual vulnerabilities and crafting deceptions that exploit those specific weaknesses. As evening approached, Detective Rodriguez arrived with the final piece of Amanda's puzzle. The investigation had uncovered Amanda's ultimate endgame, and it was more elaborate than anyone had imagined. Your sister had already purchased a house in rural Montana under one of her fake identities, Detective Rodriguez revealed. She'd set up bank accounts, established credit history, and even created employment records for a fictional career. She wasn't just planning to disappear after your mother died. She'd been building an entirely new life for months. Amanda had been planning the perfect crime. Murder disguised as natural death inheritance money that would fund a new identity in a location where no one would ever think to look for her. If I hadn't uncovered the financial fraud, Amanda would have succeeded in killing Mom and disappearing without a trace. The final climactic twist came when Agent Martinez received a call from the Montana field office. They just searched the house your sister bought. Gordon, they found graves in the backyard. We think Amanda might have done this before. 6 months later, I sat in federal district court watching Amanda receive a sentence of 25 years to life in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. The additional state charges for attempted murder, elder abuse, and conspiracy would add another 20 years to her sentence. She would likely spend the rest of her life behind bars. The investigation had ultimately uncovered a multi-state elder abuse ring that had targeted over 50 families and resulted in at least 7 suspicious deaths. Amanda had been one of the ringleaders, using her charm and intelligence to identify vulnerable targets and execute sophisticated schemes that combined financial fraud with systematic poisoning. Dad's exhumed remains had tested positive for several of the same substances found in Mom's system, confirming that Amanda had been poisoning him for months before his supposed heart attack. She had accelerated his death to gain early access to his life insurance and Mom's vulnerability as a new widow. The property in Montana had yielded the remains of 3 elderly people who died under suspicious circumstances in other states where Amanda had operated. Each victim had been systematically isolated from their families, financially exploited, and then murdered when they were no longer useful to the scheme. Federal prosecutors used Amanda's case as a landmark example of organized elder abuse, implementing new banking regulations and medical oversight protocols designed to prevent similar crimes. The systematic nature of her manipulation had exposed vulnerabilities in how society protects elderly people from exploitation by trusted family members. Mom had made a complete physical recovery from the poisoning, but the emotional healing had taken much longer. She'd entered counseling with Dr. Rebecca Martinez to process the trauma of learning that her daughter had been slowly killing her while pretending to provide loving care. The hardest part, Mom had explained during one family therapy session, isn't the physical poisoning. It's realizing that every conversation, every moment of supposed bonding, every expression of love from Amanda was calculated manipulation designed to make her murder easier to accomplish. But gradually, Mom had regained her strength, her independence, and her trust in her own judgment. She'd moved into a senior living community called Sunset Gardens, where she'd become a volunteer advocate, helping other elderly residents avoid financial scams and family manipulation. "I never want another family to go through what we experienced," Mom said during her victim impact statement at Amanda's sentencing. "I trusted my daughter completely, and she used that trust to nearly destroy everything my husband and I built together. But she didn't succeed, and now she can't hurt anyone else." The extended family had grown closer through the crisis, establishing new communication protocols and support systems designed to prevent anyone from being isolated or manipulated again. We held monthly family meetings where everyone shared updates about their lives, their concerns, and any unusual situations they were experiencing. Aunt Patricia had become Mom's closest confidant, helping her navigate the complex emotions of grieving for a daughter who was still alive, but had revealed herself to be a monster. Uncle Frank had taken early retirement to spend more time with family and ensure that no one was struggling alone. Cousins Sarah and David had both changed careers to work in elder advocacy, inspired by our family's experience, to help other vulnerable people. My relationship with Mom had become stronger and more honest than it had ever been before Amanda's manipulation. We talked openly about difficult topics, shared our concerns without fear of judgment, and created boundaries that protected both of us from future manipulation. "I'm proud of you for investigating when something felt wrong," Mom told me during one of our weekly lunches at Sunset Gardens. "You saved my life, but more importantly, you saved our family. Amanda almost succeeded in destroying all of us, but your persistence and courage prevented that." The financial recovery had been complete. All of Mom's stolen money had been returned. The fraudulent refinancing had been reversed, and Amanda's seized assets had provided additional compensation for the emotional trauma our family had endured. Mom was financially secure and would never have to worry about money again. Marcus Thompson, the private investigator who'd helped build the case against Amanda, had become a family friend and continued working with federal authorities to identify other victims of the elder abuse ring. His methodical documentation and investigation had been crucial in securing convictions against multiple perpetrators. "Your case broke open something much bigger than we initially realized," Marcus explained during a recent visit. Amanda's conviction led to 23 additional arrests and helped prosecutors understand how these schemes operate at a national level. The legal victory had been satisfying, but the real triumph was the healing and growth our family had experienced. We'd learned to communicate more directly, trust more wisely, and support each other more effectively. The crisis had revealed our vulnerabilities, but also our strengths. I'd taken a leave of absence from my engineering job to help Mom through her recovery, and had eventually decided to change careers entirely. I was now working with a nonprofit organization that trained family members to recognize signs of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Our family's story had become a teaching tool that helped other families avoid similar tragedies. Every time I share our story, I explain to audiences at elder advocacy conferences, I emphasize that the warning signs were there for months. Amanda's manipulation was sophisticated, but it wasn't invisible. Families who communicate openly and trust their instincts can protect themselves from these predators. The most meaningful part of our recovery had been watching Mom reclaim her independence and strength. She'd enrolled in college courses at the local community center, started traveling with senior groups, and even began dating a kind widower named Robert, who'd lost his wife to natural causes and understood the complexities of late-life relationships. "I refuse to let Amanda's betrayal make me suspicious of everyone," Mom declared during a family celebration of the anniversary of her recovery. "She stole 18 months of my life, but she's not getting any more time than that." As I reflected on everything our family had endured and overcome, I realized that Amanda's ultimate failure had been underestimating the power of truth and genuine love. Her manipulation had been based on isolation lies and fear. But once the truth emerged, once family members could communicate honestly, her entire scheme had collapsed rapidly. The experience had taught me that protecting family sometimes requires confronting painful truths and taking action that feels like betrayal. Remaining silent about Amanda's behavior would have enabled her to commit murder. Speaking up and fighting back had saved Mom's life and prevented other families from experiencing similar tragedies. Most importantly, I'd learned that trust should be earned through consistent actions rather than assumed based on family relationships. Amanda had exploited our natural inclination to trust family members, but healthy families can establish boundaries and verification systems that protect everyone without destroying genuine relationships. Standing in that courtroom watching Amanda receive her life sentence, I felt not revenge, but relief. Justice had been served not just for our family, but for all the other families she'd destroyed. The woman who'd tried to manipulate poison and murder her way to wealth was going to spend the rest of her life in prison, unable to harm anyone else. Now, every Sunday, I visit Mom at Sunset Gardens for lunch in their beautiful dining room overlooking the community garden she helps maintain. We talk about current events, family updates, her volunteer work, and sometimes about Amanda, but always in the context of healing and moving forward, rather than remaining trapped in the past. The family that emerged from Amanda's manipulation is smaller, but infinitely stronger, built on honesty rather than manipulation, protected by vigilance rather than blind trust, and connected through genuine love rather than obligation or fear. Have you ever had to make the difficult decision to expose a family member's harmful behavior, even when it meant facing criticism or losing relationships? Sometimes protecting the people we love requires courage to confront uncomfortable truths and take action that others might not understand. I'd love to hear your thoughts about family loyalty versus protecting vulnerable family members in the comments below. If this story resonated with you or helped you recognize warning signs in your own family, please like this video and share it with others who might benefit from understanding how elder abuse schemes operate. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about overcoming family manipulation and protecting vulnerable loved ones. Thank you for listening to our family's journey from deception to healing. Remember that speaking up about suspected abuse isn't betrayal, it's protection. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable harmful behavior, even when that person is family.